And today on the podcast, we have Roxy Vivien of F5 Strength and Muay Thai in Los Angeles. Welcome, Roxy.
Thanks, Eric.
All
Happy to
right,
be here.
good. So I wanted to get you on because I think you have a very interesting story. You're currently the owner operator of F5 Strength and Muay Thai, but you started just as a Muay Thai fighter. How did you find Muay Thai originally?
Well, it's funny. I don't know if I was particularly searching for it. It just kind of found me. I got introduced to it through, it wasn't like popular at all. It was like 2000. I didn't no idea what it was. I mean, I hadn't even seen like any of the Rocky movies or even like Claude Van Damme movies or anything. It just the whole kind of sport passed me by, and I actually wasn't really a fan of any sort of martial art or combat sport. So I was kind of the least likely candidate. I just happened to be dating a guy that was into it, and when you date someone, you kind of get interested in what they're about. And I was just bartending, and it was kind of after I'd already graduated college, and just kind of looking for something to do, I guess. So when he introduced me to the sport, I fell instantly in love with it, and really enjoyed the training. He was just kind of, I guess he was looking back. I guess he was like one of the advanced students at this really really small gym in Philadelphia, and he had like keys to the gym. He wasn't like one of the coaches, but I think he helped out a little bit. So he was just training me kind of like after hours, like on the DL in this like gym that was in I felt like it was in the attic of a building. It was super like dirty and run down, and there's a bunch of like storage stuff everywhere. So it kind of, in hindsight, it felt like something out of a Rocky movie since I decided to watch all those after.
Well,
But I guess
from
it
those
started all there. Yeah.
So from those humble beginnings, you went on to have quite a bit of success in the Muay Thai arena. Can you tell me kind of some of the awards and accomplishments you've come across?
Sure. Well, I moved out to Los Angeles, which it wasn't my intention at the time to move to like the hotbed of Muay Thai, which it kind of was. And this was in like 2000, like, gosh, my years are failing me, but it was just like a few months after I'd started Muay Thai. So I moved to Los Angeles just to kind of kickstart my life there and started training at the first Muay Thai gym that had ever come to the United States. So it's called Muay Thai Academy. It's in North Hollywood, and they have like these smoker fights there. Smoker fights are illegal, but they weren't then, or they kind of turned a blind eye to them. And you're supposed to like the gyms would just have them, and students could sign up for them. You just get matched up the day of the fight, and you have this like kind of amateur fight that's all padded and it's not sanctioned or anything. It certainly is a fight, but it's supposed to be for fun. And I didn't have any intention of doing it, but then the coach that would every now and then, if I was late on my dues, he would be really cool about it. He's like, "Oh, just pay me next month." So I felt like I kind of owed him. So when he asked me to like be in the fight, I was like, okay. So that's kind of how I got started actually fighting, which was super weird because I had no intention of doing that. Um, but I guess my accomplishments were just kind of the fact that I was the only female who was actively competing year after year as an amateur. And there were so few of us at that time that I kind of like knew every single one. I mean, some girls would have like a couple fights or one fight or a handful of fights, but the fact that I did it year after year after year, and I became an amateur champion, defended that belt a few times, and then ended up going pro. And there was like one of only, I don't know how many pro women in the United States, like less than 10 for sure. And then there was only like one in my weight class or something. So although like my accomplishments kind of pale into comparison of like women these days who are, this belt glory champion and that belt WBC and all this stuff. I think it was just the day after day grind of doing it at a time when no one else was, particularly women, that is probably my greatest overall accomplishment.
Well, anytime you have a championship under your belt, so to speak, um, amateur. No, that still puts you in rarefied air, regardless. But so you were a professional fighter, and then how did how did you kind of come into training, as in personal training?
I started that pretty early on in my career because I realized that I needed something other than bartending that was a little bit more conducive to having a fight career. And certainly working late nights is not helpful to training. So I started working for my coach, just apprenticing under him to teach Muay Thai. He had kind of a whole system of, how you teach stuff and what you teach first and what to look for. And he's really good at explaining things. And he spoke English, which not a lot of the Muay Thai coaches did. So it made it pretty easy for him to teach me how to teach other people. So I started with that, but then in 2005, when I've been apprenticing under him for a while, I decided just to get a personal training certification because I didn't want people to just think I was a joke. And as a woman in a male-dominated sport, it was already difficult for me to kind of make my own way. So I was like, well, I'll just get this personal training certification. It'll give me a little more credibility. And then I just started learning a lot about, physical training and kinesiology and strength training and stuff that I never kind of intended to learn about before, but I felt responsible for learning if I was going to be teaching people Muay Thai and fitness. So that's how that started. It's
And
kind of a
then so
necessity.
2005, you start, or 2005, you become a certified trainer after training for a while.
Mhm.
And how long until you open the doors to F5?
That started in, it was 2011 that I finally opened my own gym. Before that, I've been working for my coach for a few years, and I think it was like 2007-ish where I branched off on my own. So I was working independently as a trainer in Los Angeles, kind of amassing my own, clientele until it got pretty popular, so much so that I kind of had to open up a gym. I started like small group training, and then I had more people requesting more times than I could possibly handle. And so the logical next step was a gym, although that wasn't really my intention either. Looking back, I just kind of got thrown into a bunch of stuff that was never my intention.
Sometimes life does that to us. What was the genesis behind the name Function 5?
God, we thought about it for a while, and before we rebranded to F5 Strength and Muay Thai, I wanted a name that was like, catchy and that had elements of functional training or, strength training. It was all training without, at the time it was a new concept, the fact that you could train in the gym without machines and you didn't need a leg press or I don't know, an assisted pull-up machine or whatever the hell crap they were trying to push you with Bally's or 24-hour fitness. And that was kind of a novel concept. So I wanted to include something that kind of gave that connotation because everything I did with my clients didn't include machines. It was all like, Muay Thai and pad work. And but it wasn't CrossFit either. I did not want to teach my clients CrossFit. I had different philosophies. And so I chose that name because I felt like it wasn't CrossFit and it wasn't just Muay Thai. And at the time, people didn't really know what Muay Thai was. So I didn't want to put Muay Thai in the name. And Function 5 just kind of felt to me like the alliteration was nice. It was functional training. And the 5 stood for what I consider to be like the 5 elements of a well-rounded program, which are nutrition, strength, sport, rest and recovery, and mindset. And so that
What was the last
kind
one? I
of
missed it.
mindset.
Mindset.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mental training. Yeah. And so we kept the 5 when we rebranded. It's just like F5, which stands for Function 5. But I needed to include Muay Thai and strength in there because fitness got more popular and people were specifically looking for that and not just like a general fitness program. So it was good that we rebranded. I feel like that really helped us.
And at what point did you come across kettlebells?
I started training kettlebells with one of my coaches. I always hired strength coaches. So I feel like I learned way more from hiring coaches than I did from reading a book about training. I passed my personal training certification, but to be honest, I didn't really know the difference between a pull-up and a push-up upon passing it. So I think it's really helpful for people without a kinesiology background to hire good coaches to learn more. So I learned all sorts of stuff, including kettlebells, from people that I trained with. They didn't have the strong first kettlebell background initially. The people I learned from, they had more of this kettlebell sport background or like a CrossFit American style kettlebell background, but I at least like got exposed to them and was really interested. After I opened one of my first hires, actually off Craigslist, this guy Tyler Schaefer, really kind of big character, bearded, tattooed power lifter who'd been in the weight room since he was like born. And I played like, football D2 and just lifted weights with a passion. And he was kind of helping me to form the weightlifting program. And he insisted that we go to this certification called RKC, Russian Kettlebell Challenge. And I looked at it and I thought it had like really bad graphic design and I was not all interested. And I saw that it was really expensive and I was like, what is this? And he's like, we have to go. It's really important. It could be great for the students and it could really help us shape the strength program. And I was like, okay, I trust you. And then he had like a CSCS cert and USAW and he's just like someone that liked to accumulate really high level certs. So I was like, well, if you say so. And so we got very mildly prepared and then launched our way into the RKC, which was the craziest weekend ever.
And where did you do your RKC weekend?
I did my RKC up in San Jose. It was one of the last ones that Pavel was a part of. I think that we did it in like, I want to say it was like March or April. And then shortly after that, they split into Strong First. So we had to decide who to stay with, and we chose Strong First.
Okay. So, and because of that, now you actually are one of the few accredited Strong First gyms in Los Angeles.
Yeah. We ever since that day where Tyler and I got certified, he went on to do level 2. I got my level 2, and we have successfully helped. I think the tally is now up to like, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4. So something like 8 students, 8 coaches get their certifications, or maybe more. Maybe it's like 10 now. So we've trained a lot of people, mostly coaches, over the years that have worked with us to get their Strong First kettlebell certification. So that's been pretty cool. And then when they launched the accredited gym certification, it was just a kind of a no-brainer because we'd already gotten so many people on staff over the years to get certified. So it was easy for us to get accredited.
It is easy. And I believe at the current count, you're one of 2. The only other accredited gym, I believe, is John Spizano's gym, who is a team leader with Strong First.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. So one of the only really strong First gyms in Los Angeles.
Yeah, all of Los Angeles.
Which is kind of cool.
So,
and probably the
go ahead.
Only one owned by a woman.
That's right. So now we've got, we're currently still under stay-at-home orders thanks to COVID-19. And that obviously has affected businesses around the country, and especially gyms, since we're typically a face-to-face type business. What have you done to shift F5 online?
Well, I had to move quickly because I anticipated that I like to not expect the worst, but prepare for the worst. Mm-hmm. So I anticipated from the beginning that this was going to be a longer stay at home than people thought. And so I switched gears right away and initially switched gears before the actual official stay at home order to kind of a really small group training model, only allowing like 3 or 4 people in the gym at a time. And then after doing all that work for 2 days, I had to switch again to, formally having to shut down and switch everything online. Luckily, I've been really interested in technology and automation and software systems and things like that for a while. I've been interested in like kind of like tech and computers for a while. In college, I took like web design, which I don't know many people take that as just an elective. I thought it was super fascinating to learn HTML as my elective, but I know not everyone felt that way. Um, so I guess you could say I've been kind of fortunate in that like a lot of this technology is not new, it's not new to me. So it wasn't that difficult of a switch, although I think it is a difficult switch in general for a lot of teams. So implementing a bunch of new systems and services, and with especially because coaches are people that got involved in the coaching industry typically because they don't want to sit behind a desk, and then having to teach said coaches how to sit behind a desk all day. Not only is their morale a little bit dampened, but they just don't have the systems in place to be able to navigate that, most of them. So I think that's been the real challenge. The technology is pretty easy for me to, you know, streamline classes and create automations to have people sign up for various things, and get text messages and emails and all that with information. That's pretty easy, but I think the hardest part is figuring out ways to keep my team engaged throughout this process in a way that they're just not used to. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that nobody saw coming originally, and a lot of people are forced to adapt um, moving forward in ways that some people wanted to, but like you said, a lot of people didn't. So hopefully, as this is winding down and we're coming back to a state of normalcy to some degree, do you plan on keeping a portion of F5 online, or are you going to mix this in? Like, is there a soft plan on how you're going to move forward once you get to reopen the doors?
Yeah, I mean, I've been forced into offering all these online services, but it's always something I've wanted to do and implement in some capacity, and now it's taking on this whole shape of its own. We have live classes, we have support calls with coaches, we have an online portal with courses and tutorials of how to learn how to do Muay Thai and lift, and that's all stuff that's either already in place or in the works. And I think that those are really valuable assets all the time. And so my plan is to, when we reopen, I don't think it's going to be the same. I think that it's pretty idealistic to think the whole country could shut down, everyone practices social distancing, and then there's just going to be a day where we open up the gym and it's back to normal. I don't think that's going to happen at all. I think that gyms might be one of the last places to open. And even if restaurants open, that's kind of considered essential because people have to eat, and they're going to be confined to limited people in the restaurant and how the tables are arranged for proper social distancing. So I don't really think we're going to see gyms be open in the same way, particularly not Muay Thai gyms, because of the close contact. So I think that the plan that I had in place initially to allow for only 3 or 4 people at a time in the gym and less social contact with other students, I think that's something we'll probably end up implementing first. And because of that, I think people will still need the online services to support them in their program in ways that possibly the semi-private training model isn't going to support. And then once we're back to doing, the small group training of 8 to 10 people that our gym is used to, I think that offering them online for times that people aren't able to get to the gym is really valuable. So I plan on offering online services to all the members who have an in-person membership, and then also selling the online services kind of a la carte by themselves. I foresee that people may be a little apprehensive about going to the gym every day like they used to. So maybe a situation where there's kind of a hybrid membership where people are attending, just a couple classes to check in with a coach and go over their form, and then doing a lot of the training at home. Some people may feel more comfortable with that, particularly if they realize that they don't need to be in the office or they don't need to be in the gym every day. They want to be there at certain times, and that a lot of the other stuff they can take care of on their own with the support of online coaching. That might be something that people just decide, and then we'll be ready to offer it, which is great.
Great. Um, so more on a personal note, then, while you've been self-quarantined and running a business out of your home, have you been able to keep up on your own workouts?
I have. In fact, I I feel like I might be working out like a little bit more, not quite the same way. But what's been keeping me consistent is the fact that we're offering classes, and I'm usually moderating them or taking them just to kind of get a feel for the flow. And so the Monday, Wednesday, and Friday 6 p.m. Fighter Fit classes that we've been running live online, I've just been doing those, whether I'm teaching them or moderating them. Um, and so it's a lot of like, body weight, cardio, shadow boxing, light weights, kind of, hit type stuff, which is a little different than what my training looked like before. That was like a lot less cardio and more strength training with a little bit of swings at the end. This is it's good though. It's good. I'm getting something in, and it's something different, and I'm feeling like I'm moving throughout the day and even sweating a bit, so that's nice.
That's good. My training personally has been far more strength based and a lot less cardio actually. So we're kind of moving in two opposite directions at the same time. Um, well, I do appreciate you having the time for me today to come on the call, and I appreciate you going back through your history, which I do find fascinating, and look forward to your success with F5 moving forward.
Cool. Thanks a lot, Eric. Thanks for having me.